Hi everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel, and I am finally getting around to my mid-month wrap-up. I know that it's like almost finished with the month, but I'm super late on videos this month due to life, and I wanted to go ahead and give you a mid-month wrap-up because otherwise my monthly wrap-up videos are like a good 45 minutes long and ain't nobody got time for that. So just an FYI. I am going to go through the books I read through the 15th of September. So even though that it is like, I don't know, whatever today is. What's today? Like the 25th, 20 something. I don't know what day of the week it is. It's late in September. I am definitely going to just go through what I read through the 15th of the month, and we'll go from there. So before I jump into the video, two quick reminders. First one is that next week's Tuesday video will not be a booktube related video. That video is going to be my yearly ovarian cancer awareness video. I'm doing a Q&A answering all your questions about ovarian cancer. If you have any questions about cancer, cancer treatment, ovarian cancer, life after cancer, any of the above, feel free to send me a question either through one of my social media channels or leave me a comment below with your question, and I will post it and answer it during next Tuesday's video. The second announcement, if you haven't already heard, I have started a second YouTube channel where I'm talking about my debt journey. It's called Mary Ellen's Debt-Free Journey, and I am gearing up on turning 40, so I decided to try to get my crap together, and I'm going to get out of debt, get my mental health in order, get hopefully my weight in order, and this is just going to be a journey to become debt-free, more healthy, and to hopefully live a better last half of my time here above ground. So if you want to check it out, there's a link below that you can check out. All right, guys, on to my mid-month wrap-up for September. Again, I should be pretty quick video because some of these I've already talked about with you guys, so we'll see. I read 10 books for the first half of September. The first 4 books are all related in a certain series that I've already talked about on here, so I'm going to just give a brief rundown of them. And the first 4 are by Kennedy Ryan. They are either part of the Grip trilogy and or related to the Grip trilogy. So the first one I read was Flow, second one is Grip, third one is Still, and the fourth one was The Rule of Always. So the first 3 are the actual Grip trilogy, which I talked about on my channel. I'll post up here somewhere. I did a whole in-depth review of the Grip trilogy by Kennedy Ryan. Love them, and the last book Still is probably one of my favorite books I've ever read of all time. So you definitely should check them out. Again, check out my video for all the details about that. And I gave all those books 5 stars. The Rule of Always is kind of this spin-off short story that Kennedy just released, and it's about Iz and what's her name? Iz and Callie, who have a little bit of brief interactions with each other in Still, and y'all know they like each other, but then they don't end up together. So this is like a little short story about their romance. Very, very short, only a couple chapters. It's a free book if you sign up for her newsletter type thing. And it's cute. I gave it 4 stars, but again, it really wouldn't make any sense to you, nor would you care about this book unless you've already read the Grip trilogy. So those 4 books are all related, and I enjoyed them. That's how I started off the month. Started off with a bang. And then there 'twas no bang. 'Twas no bang, guys. All right. The 5th book I read was called A Wicked Wager by Adele Klee. I gave this one 3 stars. Let's talk about it. Okay, so it's Devin and Juliet, or Devlin, I should say. Devlin and Juliet. And Devlin is in this card game at the beginning of the book with Juliet's father. And they don't like each other. There's some kind of past history about Devlin's brother, and he's responsible for his death somehow. I didn't quite understand it. There's a book 1. This is book 2 of a series. I feel like if I had read book 1, maybe it would make more sense, but I didn't. So I don't quite know the backstory. Don't know. But they don't like each other. And he wins this card game. And one of the things he wins in this card game is the right to marry this man's daughter. Well, the man pulls a fast one on Devlin. He has an illegitimate daughter, and so instead of giving him the actual daughter in marriage, he gives him the illegitimate daughter, which obviously makes Devlin super mad, but he feels bad for the girl because he meets her and realizes that this father has been mistreating her. She's illegitimate. She's treated like a servant. And so he decides to marry her anyway to save her from living in her father's household. And they fall in love from there. There's this whole like side plot about them trying to find letters that have to do with like how her father bribed his brother and that's what caused his brother's death or something. I didn't quite understand it. It's not that it was a bad book, so I don't want people to think, oh, it was a bad book. It's historical romance, but like, it was just okay. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just okay. And that's the thing. Like, I can't pinpoint anything about it that makes it a bad book. It's a decent story. It flows well. It's got a happy ending at the end. It was just okay. So 3 stars. Book number 6 was Royal by Winter Renshaw. I gave this one 3.5 stars as well. This is a story of, I'm going to read it because it's been a while. So Royal is Demi's brother's best friend, so it's a brother's best friend romance. And he was raised in foster care, but basically spent most of his time hanging out with her family and with his brother, and was kind of considered like another member of the family, which is how they met. They fell in love in high school and actually dated in high school. And when they were both about 19 years old, he suddenly takes off and she doesn't know why. And he's gone for 7 years. So I'm going to stop right here and just tell you immediately my guard went up. And I'll tell you why my guard went up. The plot sounds an awful lot like 7 Years by Danica Dark. I'm just saying, it's a very similar plot line. So, which is why I thought I would like it. But then it kind of falls flat after that. So he comes back after 7 years without any explanation. She is engaged at the time to a guy she doesn't really love. There's cheating in this book because she's with this guy and reconnects with Royal. So there's cheating in this book, spoiler. And I just kind of like, I don't know. I'll explain it. So they obviously end up together. It's a romance novel, duh. And it turns out that the reason that he left 7 years ago is because he was accused of a crime he didn't commit and actually did time in jail. Why nobody told her this and why she couldn't figure this out, I don't know. We live in the world of the internet. Google him. He will show up on a prison record somewhere. I'm just saying, being honest with you, Google. I think the thing that I didn't love about this book was that there was really no emotional punch to the book. The author really relies on the fact that they were in a past relationship to vouch for the fact that they love each other now. But you don't see that, like, I'm sorry, if some dude left without telling me 7 years ago, he's going to have to grovel and re-woo me in order for me to fall in love with this guy, but she just immediately is in love with him again. And the author really relies on this. She's always loved him and she still loves him today. I get it, but I still think there should have been more of like a reconnection between the two of them. And I didn't like that. So I feel like it really relied on the past relationship rather than the present day relationship. And I was also super annoyed that her entire family knew that this guy had committed a crime and did time in jail, but yet, like, she couldn't figure that out. I don't know. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was okay. Again, it had a few issues I just didn't love. Book number 7 was Untouchable by Sam Mariano, or Mariano. I'm not sure how she says her last name, but this is a book that Jen from the book Refuge has been talking about off and on for a while now. She always recommends it with like a slew of trigger warnings, and she's not lying when she says this. This is definitely a book that you want to go into cautiously because it's a little bit of a rough book. So in this story is the infamous Carter Mahoney. And the girl in the book is Zoe Ellis. So the book starts off with Zoe turning in a football player for sexual harassment. He basically groped her. And so she turns him in and gets him in trouble. The problem is that this is one of those small towns where like football is life. Think like Friday Night Lights, if you remember that TV show. Football is life and the whole town revolves around football. So like her getting him in trouble is a big, big deal. And basically, you've got Carter, who is this like, he's on the football team. He's kind of like the guy at the school that leads, the leader of the school. Let's put him that way. He's the big shot, the guy that all the girls want to date him and all the guys want to be him. And he corners her in a classroom because they want her to like tell everybody that she was lying and to get this other football player off the hook, basically. And she refuses to do so. And he corners her in a classroom and sexually assaults her. That's how the book starts off. Literally in the first chapter, he sexually assaults her. So major trigger warnings for sexual assault. It is what it is. Let's call it what it is. But you're thinking like, there's no possible way that I can like this guy. And he bullies her after this, pretty much controls her life and bullies her. And you're like, yeah, I don't know how you're going to make this guy likable. But she has this way, Zoe does, of getting under his skin and kind of picking, and she picks a little more. And suddenly you see her kind of like get into the more emotional part of him. And by the end of the book, you're like, I really want these two to end up together and I shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, she should be like going to the cops and getting this guy arrested. But I really want them to end up together at the end of the book. It's very confusing. And it like hits in a way that you don't expect it to hit. Because you're like, I should really hate this guy. But I really kind of think they should end up together. What? I don't even know. Like, what? I don't know how this author did this. But like, this is the bully romance of all bully romances. You just need to know that it's major trigger warnings for sexual assault. So if you're not into that, it's an absolute no. So I've heard people talk about this kind of like rape / like non-consent, consent type conversations in other books. And it reminds me a lot of, for all you older folks out there, the story of Luke and Laura from General Hospital. If anyone who remembers this story or remembers watching like I did back in the 90s when you had Jonathan Jackson as Lucky and he was so cute and I had a big crush on him. Luke and Laura started off this way too. So you had Luke who basically raped her and then they end up reconnecting and they fall in love and get married and have children in this soap opera. It's an American soap opera if you happen to not be American. It's called General Hospital. And this was an actual storyline in like the 70s and 80s with this TV show. And it kind of reminds me, a lot of these books kind of remind me of that because that became a really popular plot in some of these soap operas back during that time period because of the whole Luke and Laura thing. And so I think that's why I kind of bought into this a little more maybe. I don't know. All I know is that it has some hard sections and some rough spots. So if you're easily triggered or if you have a past history of like rape or sexual assault or sexual abuse, I don't think you should probably read this one or be very careful if you do. But I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I really was shocked at how much I loved the couple by the end of the book. I mean, they made sense together. And I'm like, it's so wrong, but it's so right. So I get why Jen loves this book because I really love it too. I don't know if any other bullying type romance, I don't know if you would consider this a true bully romance, but I mean, it kind of is. I don't know. I don't know if any other one I read will live up to this one. This one is unique. It's skeevy, but not. Book number 8 was Long Shot by Kenny Ryan. After reading the Grip trilogy, I was so in love with her books that I decided to give her another chance. So I read Long Shot. This book was about Iris and August. This is another really tough one. And I was actually not expecting this one to be as tough as it is. When I was reading reviews on Amazon, There were a few trigger warnings, and then Kennedy Ryan does have a brief trigger warning at the beginning of the book that she talks about. This is another one for triggers for sexual assault, domestic violence, rape, very, very tough topics. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, but it's a tough one. It is a slow burn, and it has some really, really hard scenes to get through. So in this book, you have Iris and August who meet at a bar. He is an up-and-coming basketball star. He is in college basketball. He has a big game, and he's being scouted because he's going to go to the NBA, is basically how the story works out. And they meet at the bar and have an instant connection, but Iris is already dating someone else who happens to be on the opposing basketball team, who's this guy's also a basketball player. So this story kind of chronicles several years, actually. They meet at the bar, and then 6 months later, they meet at another basketball event. And then 6 months later, they meet at another basketball event. Spoilers, because I'm going to spoil that basically she ends up pregnant at one point by the guy that she's dating. It's really, it's very much a slow burn because these two characters do not get together until 75% through the book, maybe 75%. You're a good chunk of the way through the book before the two of these people end up together. The reason why this is a really, really hard book to read is that although it's a romance, there is no romance until you're about 70% way through the book. Prior to this, it is very, very difficult situations with her and August meeting each other and flirting and having a connection, but then her being with this other guy who is an abuser. And she doesn't shy away from this. There are detailed scenes of him beating her, other detailed scenes of him controlling her, hurting her, raping her. And I had to actually put this one down and walk away, and read a lighter book and come back because I just couldn't do it. It was extremely hard to get through. I kept reading more so because I wanted to see how she got away from this abusive man, more so than I cared about the romance between her and August. When they do end up together, it's a beautiful love story between the two of them. But really, this story, I don't really consider it to be heavy romance. I consider it to be more about this, how strong a woman is, how much you can endure, how you can fight to get out of an abusive relationship and get your own life, more so than a romance. Because I really feel like the book was primarily about her getting out of this abusive situation than it was about her falling in love with August. So I gave it 4 stars, and it is a romance, but it's hard to get through. So just keep that in mind. I liked it, but it was a tough one. And the last 2 books in the series were book 3 and 4 of The Mafia Wars by Maggie Cole. Y'all know I've been trying to get through this series, so every month I'm picking at least 2-3 books and trying to kind of trudge my way through this series. I really love this series so far. The first 2 books were phenomenal. So book number 3 is called Cruel Enforcer. This is a story of Cora and Sergey. And Cora you meet in the previous book because she is one of Nora's best friends. And Cora is this really kind of cool character. She is a lawyer who is known for helping women in divorces, but she helps like high profile divorces. So she gets like these really super rich men who have, excuse me, ooh, that was lovely, hiccup. She helps these really like rich relationships. Like the men are powerful, rich, they got money, they can buy their way out of trouble. They've got all the money in the world to pay off people, so to make sure that she doesn't get anything in her divorce. And that's what Cora does, is she fights these men to make sure that these women are not steamrolled by the man's money and that they get what they should get in divorce. They get the money that they need, they get the assets that they should be getting, and that they get their fair share of the, breakup of that marriage. So that is kind of what her duty is as this divorce lawyer. She is very much, they call like a ball busting attorney. So she's very much a feminist. I'm strong. I take care of myself. I don't need no man. and she doesn't really want a relationship due to some past hurts with her family. So she meets Sergei, obviously through Nora, and for being friends with Nora, she knows Sergei's in the mafia. She's very attracted to him, and so she decides, let's just sleep together. Let's have this be purely a physical relationship. And that's how it starts off, but it doesn't stay that way because he develops feelings for her and then she slowly develops feelings for him, and the story goes on from there. There is the subplot that's been going through the whole Mafia War series still going on, which I think is really cool. And then just a kind of little bit of a tidbit. This story definitely has more naughty bits in it than some of the other books I've read in the series and in general so far. It does include a little bit of like BDSM type stuff, which I obviously don't usually read this kind of stuff. So if you're not into that and that's like a big no-no for you, and I'm very good at skipping, but some of these I was like, ooh, no honey, next chapter. But just an FYI, if you like that sort of thing, it's in here. And if you don't like that sort of thing, it's in here. It's done very tastefully and easily skippable ways, but just an FYI that it's in there. And then book number 10 was Vicious Protector. That was book 4 in the series. This is a story of Adrian and Skylar. You guys, I have given all these books like 5 stars, including Quill and Forster got 5 stars. But I'm telling you, this one I got 2 stars. I hate to say it. I've got book number 5 on my Kindle and I have not picked it up yet after reading this one. You guys, I did not like these characters. Okay, 2 things. First of all, you've got Skylar, who's getting really annoyed with Adrian. It's Adrian and Skylar. Skylar's getting really annoyed with Adrian because Adrian won't tell her things about the mafia, but she knows Adrian's in the mafia, and she knows that in the mafia they can't tell you everything because it's the frickin' mafia. They're not going to tell you everything. She gets super like butthurt and offended that like he doesn't tell her everything. But then at the same time, he is not telling her anything because he thinks he's protecting her. I was annoyed because it's like, why are you getting so worked up? But then I was also annoyed with him because you love her. So tell her you love her and tell her some stuff. And really what the 2 people needed to do throughout 90% of this book was to sit down and have a conversation. Y'all just need to sit down, spill your beans, spill the guts, and like get it all out on the table so that your relationship can work out. And it takes like a whole good chunk of the book for that to happen. And I just kind of didn't like them. I was like, I don't know. A little disappointed. I will say one really cool thing I like in this series that I think is kind of unique and really cool is that all of the books are overlapping the same events in the storyline, which I think is super neat. So the last 3 books I've read have all, for example, I have been to Nora's wedding, Nora and whatever his name is. I can't remember his name. The other dude. Nora and the other dude. Nora's wedding in 3 books now. But it approaches the books from the different couples' points of views, and then it'll take you a step further. So like here's the wedding, some events that happen, the book stops. Then here's the wedding, some stuff happens, you go a little further, the book stops. And then wedding, a little further, book stops. I love how she's doing it because you're getting the same stories and the same events that are happening, but they're all happening from different perspectives. And then she takes the story for just a step further. And then you're like, crap, I got to read the next book. And I think it's really unique because I've not seen this done before. And maybe it has been done in other series, but it's new to me. And I really love it. So I'm enjoying it. I will read the book 5 probably in the next couple of weeks. But I didn't love this one. I was kind of disappointed I didn't love this one. I just felt like y'all just need to sit down and have a talk. Quit being idiots. All right, guys. Those are the 10 books I read for the first half of September, and I only counted books I read through the 15th of the month. On the 15th, I did read By Sin I Rise by Cora Riley, which I just did a detailed review of, so I will include that on the last half of the month. But just an FYI, that's kind of like my middle point book, because I read it on the 15th, so it could count for the first half of the month. It could count for the second half of the month. Just depends All right, guys, those are my mid-month wrap-up books. Let me know what you have read so far for the month of September. And I can't believe that in just like another week or two, we will be doing the full month wrap-up because Mary's late on lots of stuff. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.